Now, for more on Japan's election, we are joined by Stephen Nagy, a professor of politics and international studies at Tokyo's International Christian University. Stephen, really good to have you with us once again. Shigeru Ishiba, he called the election a year early. What's behind the decision, given these cost of living pressures that are there and the public feeling perhaps the government has not quite done enough?
Well, he was elected as the LDP president, and traditionally then he becomes the prime minister of Japan. But that's without a public mandate. So the calling of a general election is really to legitimate his status as the prime minister of Japan. Unfortunately, and as your interlude to this interview started, it's likely that the LDP is going to lose at least 40 to 50 seats. And that does not bode well for the Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, and it probably means that the internal civil war in the LDP is going to get much rougher.
Yeah, what can you say about those factions that are there that were engulfed in the slush fund scandal? And if that is the case, we are seeing a minority government. How is that going to play out with its other coalition partners?
So many politicians from the LDP were implicated in a slush fund scandal, but as well as other scandals associated with parties with very scantily clad young ladies. And really, the voter looks at the LDP today and they see an LDP that's out of touch with the ordinary needs of Japanese citizens, that they're not dealing with the challenges of inflation, and really not representing the interests of ordinary Japanese. And with that, we have this general election on hand, and this Sunday we're likely again to see the LDP and those people involved with the slush fund fall victim to the voters' wrath, and potentially shifting the dynamics within the ruling Liberal Democratic Party and its coalition partner.
Yeah, so what do you make of the opposition, the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan and its leader Yoshihiko Noda? Will they make any sort of inroads?
They'll make inroads, but ultimately there's not much to distinguish between the LDP and the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan in terms of like the policies that ordinary Japanese are facing. In the Australian case, both parties would be seen as really pro-interventionist into the economy. They support national health care, generous pensions and social welfare programs. And this makes it very difficult to distinguish the Constitutional Democratic Party and the LDP. And with that, I think that what we're likely to see is that the elderly voters, who are the majority in voters, voting groups, are going to vote for a conservative party that meets their needs and has a track record of success. And unfortunately, the former Prime Minister Noda was Prime Minister during the Democratic Party of Japan's period from 2009 to 2012. And at that time, the U.S.-Japan relations worsened, U.S.-China relations worsened, the economy worsened, and they mishandled the Fukushima nuclear incident.
And what can you say about the voter turnout? It's sort of been hovering well below 60% for the last few elections. Are we expecting the same?
Yes, I think that will be a low voters turnout. What's interesting in particular about this election is, rather than the voter turnout, is the number of women candidates that have emerged, really, I think, as a protest against a male-dominated political system. 314 women have put their name forward in an attempt to try and change the domestic politics and have more women representation in the Japanese political sphere. It'll be interesting to see how many of them are successful and how this changes the dynamics of domestic politics in Japan.
Can you give us a sense of how engaged, particularly younger Japanese, are with this election?
They're not really engaged. And this is a feature of Japanese society, that when young people are in university, this is the last time they're going to be active civil society members until they retire. Once they're in the working in the business community or as public servants, they're really quite silent on issues related to politics. And as a result, we don't see the typical movements on the streets protesting against the governments, rallying for wage increases, etc. We'll see a small bump from those youth voters, but in reality, it's going to be those elderly voters that come to the voting booths and vote for conservative issues, and that's those generous social welfare benefits, pensions, maintaining their health care and dental care, and the support that they need.
There's been some research from Pew a couple of days ago that said that 56% of adults don't feel close to a political party, and only a third are satisfied with how democracy is functioning in Japan. How does this bode for the manner in which democracy functions in the country in the short and medium term?
Well, clearly Japan is a vibrant democracy in the sense that it holds regular elections. It can kick out leaders, both at the national level and a local level. So this is, I think, a strength of Japan. But the political interest and the reality is that young people and those that are in their workforce are not politically active while they're working. And this means they're not shaping the issues, but being shaped by politicians and what politicians are putting on the table. In societies like Australia or Canada, where I'm from, people after work, they go and protest and they fight for what they believe is important. And that's an important aspect of the democratic systems that we have. In Japan, in contrast, it's a consensus-based democratic process where politicians go to the local communities, they listen to views, form consensus, and that policy percolates up to party policy. It's a different kind of democratic system, but I think that it's problematic. We need more voices voicing the needs of ordinary citizens, and I think that is probably the future of Japanese politics moving forward.
Yeah, is it really time, for Japan to go beyond its very hierarchical structure of governance, of doing business, and getting younger candidates to be at the forefront, especially female candidates to be at the forefront in cabinet, also contesting to be the prime minister?
Of course, this is really going to be important moving forward to adjust for the realities of low birth rates and aging society and an increasingly less diverse society. Without more voices that are representative in society, Japan's not going to be able to tackle many of the challenges that it faces. That being said, we are in a position where there's smaller and smaller numbers of young people, meaning there's less new ideas and less dynamicism into the political system, and it will retain a hierarchical element. It's part of their culture, it's part of their history, and these are difficult things to change. That being said, there are local leaders that are really trying to change these dynamics.